Well, hello everyone. Welcome back. It's been a while. Let me check my audio. Make the levels are good. I say so. That's great. Yeah, it's been a while. Let's see. The last time I was here, war had the war in Europe had been today Saturday, July 23rd. So much has happened since then. Uh, I was in a difficult place at that point. It's hard for me to maintain any level of personal hope for any of this stuff. The global heating, climate change that results from that is it's just a disaster. It really is. It's kind of a personal disaster. I'm necessarily living in a place that's going to be any more survivable than any other, maybe a bit, but um, like everybody, my story is I'm stuck where I'm stuck. So I'm of course obviously looking for the same as everybody else, but because I'm a scientist, because I uh, follow the data and keep track of the science. It just isn't any room to imagine that it works out. Okay, period. There's no room to imagine that it works out. So, war in Europe starting, it just became really difficult to continue to do this and have these conversations. There are some of you that are listening, and I think that's good. I don't need a wide audience. Some of this is therapy for me, right? So this is just me needing to talk to somebody. I talk to my wife all the time. She's great about that. She's really interested in the topic. Good for her. We have discussions. Sometimes, and I've said this before, I've been a teacher, so I say this with some experience. Sometimes the best way to stand a topic is to teach it. And it helps if you're with someone who is interested in the topic and can draw out and ask questions. And over the decade or so, we've been tackling this together as a couple. Me personally, even 30 years. I've been able to clarify my thought and my, what do they call it? My values clarification, as we used to call it in teacher education. It's not just information all the time. Sometimes, how do you feel about, what does this mean? Does it mean anything to you? What does it mean to all of us? Do we have any collective responsibilities here? So I've been using this time to clarify my values and teach the topic, and I need a wide audience for that. That works for me, right? That's my takeaway. And I think if you're going to be a teacher or any kind of a science communicator, really any kind of communicator, your principal audience really ought to be yourself. And people who practice, they write the script and they read the script and they think about the points and they do their slides and they walk through their slide presentation. They're educating them as much as anything else. And times after many years, especially if you're a teacher, you've got a slide deck, a bunch of bullet points. Really work. You've really owned it. But in essence, you've learned a lot, right? You've learned a lot. So I keep doing this. I keep talking. I talk to my wife. I talk to myself. And it can be beneficial. So here I am again. I'm still at the same level of resolution that I was at as the war in Ukraine was opening up. Prior to that war, I had managed to convince myself that the Paris Climate Accords and all the COP25 and the COP26 and all these other things were edging humans in a particular direction. It was baby step. It was politically fraught, and Donald Trump came along, and not that he really did anything, to that, but he didn't take it forward. So 4 years lost. He'll be elected again in 2024, or somebody who looks and acts just like him. That's another 4 years lost. What I realized on the open days of the war train is that it doesn't matter. 4 years lost to Donald Trump is really not any different, frankly, than the 8 years lost to the Obama administration, or the 4 years we're going to lose to the Biden administration, and then the 4 years to the DeSantis administration. I don't know what comes out. The time is lost. It's all lost. The political class has absolutely, utterly failed it. That's it. They failed us at a time when there might he could have made a difference. I would say 60 years ago. Certainly no further than 30 years. Might have made a difference. James gave his landmark presentation to the Congress. I think it was 1989, and where he said that we were on a glide path to just an unmitigated global disaster. He said it straight up. And he was able to keep his position at NASA. He was a high-level operative at NASA. He kept his position. He kept on that message, and then he retired and not hear anything about him. More likely to hear something from Michael Mann, who was also a climatologist, but he's not saying anything about we're on path to a global disaster. He always says time is running out and we still have time and we can do and all this kind of stuff. Even Joe Biden recently, 3 or 4 ago, was supposed to declare a climate emergency here in the U.S. At the dual level climate emergency. And, so what? Declare away. What does that do? Doesn't do anything. There are no laws passed by Congress that say whereas the United States of America should ever in the future declare a climate emergency, then the following laws will come into trip wires. These things now have to happen. It's like it's a declaration of war with Russia. We know what to do if there's a declaration of war against Russia. We have no idea what to do. The declaration of war against global heating. I mean, who is that? What is that? Who's causing that? Who do we bomb? Whose country do we send stealth bombers over with global heating? Well, the answer is simple: our own. I mean, if you're going to solve the problem with stealth bombers, here we go. We know who's causing all that. So obviously, we want to do that. But my point is that declaring a climate emergency is non-actionable. It's fully empty. And I know a lot of people are saying, "Wow, Joe Biden's going to declare a climate emergency." Oh, wow, we signed the Paris Climate Accords and 50% reductions in net zero by some future, 1,000 years from now, whatever it is. And it's meaningless. I'm telling you, it's meaningless. I know what the Paris Climate Accords contained, and I understand why everyone signed them. I did not understand why Donald Trump got us, except that he's pandering to base, who are a bunch of people who don't know how the world works. And so he was able to get point with them by pulling the Paris Climate Accords. But the Paris Climate Accords are voluntary. And the nations that signed the Paris Climate Accords set their own measures. And those measures are voluntary. I mean, you're supposed to set, and you're supposed to adhere to them, and you're supposed to have, baby steps towards your goals and all this kind of stuff. But it's all voluntary. And you set your own goals. Whatever those happen to be for you, your nation, your people, whatever you think can get past, and whatever you think your people will swallow without decapitating you, French style, that becomes your goal. It's meaningless. It's aspirational. I use the word meaning in a very, very particular way. Something meaningful if it has real world implications. Okay? So aspirate goals, like your January 1 goals for yourself, that you're going to get to the gym three times a week. Okay? That's meaningless. And people that have their January goals for themselves for the year never even bother review after that. They come up with them. It's kind of a fun thing. It becomes a drinking game or whatever. And you and your friends sit around, come up with lists for the year, and then you throw them away. Okay? It's meaningless. Now people should have goals on January 1 for the rest of the year that could probably save their lives, right? I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to get my blood pressure. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to quit smoking. I'm going to finish my college degree. I'm going to move to that. Move closer to my parents. I'm going to be a better person. Whatever it is, it could be life-affirming, life-changing goals. Still don't do them. Don't do them. Why? Because they're words. They're words. That's all they are. These are aspirational, meaningless gestures. That's all they are. Okay? And humans are very good at that. We use a lot of language to game ourselves, to convince ourselves that we're on top of things. We know what we're doing. We got a handle on this. We got to figure this out. We can do this individually, together, politically, economically. We got a handle on this, and it's all words. It's meaningless. It's just words. And sometimes those words don't even comport the laws of physics. Now, JFK, John F. Kennedy, aspiration, presumed talked with some scientists and some rocket engineers to get human beings to the moon. A lot of people at the time thought that violated fundamental laws of physics. You can't do that. You can say those words. You can say them in a convincing way. And you can believe that you're going to put humans on the moon. But those words do not comport with the laws of physics, you see. There are lots of people who thought. There are people who think that to this day. Even though we've had moon missions and with a proper telescope, you can see the track on the moon from the moon mission. You can see the landers that got left behind on the moon when the capsule left to take them back to the command module and left the lander on the moon. You can still see the lander on the moon. And they still don't believe it because they think it does not comport with the laws of physics. Joe Biden declaring a climate emergency. Narrative warfare. Narrative warfare. It's words. All narrative warfare is intended to do a couple of things. One, it's to convince you that person using those words has a handle on things. Now to some extent, JFK, going to get everyone on the moon. We're going to do it by the end of this decade or whatever. That was a kind of warfare. It might not have worked out. But given the realities of the Cold War and the Russians and all these things, and we had to keep ahead of the Russians, and this was almost a strategic goal, and engaging in sort of warfare had a purpose. Joe Biden declaring a climate emergency is a kind of narrative warfare towards a purpose. What is that purpose? Well, in the case of the Apollo mission, the purpose of the narrative warfare, the purpose of having aspirational goals and using them to frame those goals and put those there into people's minds, into the population, something to think about. His idea of making a speech and telling people we're going to get to the moon was to get people on board to get to them, and maybe even get some scientists out of their current careers into the effort, and maybe get some young people going to school to get themselves educated in engineering, physics, and astrophysics and whatever else, so they could join the effort later. Because for all we knew, this was a multi-decade effort, right? So you have this narrative you're framing. Use all these words. It's all aspirational. It's all flag waving, rah. Okay, but it has a purpose. It does have a purpose. And lo and behold, we're on the moon. If you don't believe that, it came to the wrong channel. Okay, we went to. Joe Biden was going to declare a climate emergency, and they were going to go where? What does that even mean? Going to the moon means building a rocket, a big rocket to reach the moon. There it is, right there. Not an imaginary place, right there. See, look up. There it is. That one right there. Big rocket. Yeah, I know. Really big rocket. We don't even make rockets that big. There's never been a rocket that big. We don't even know how to build rockets that big. We don't know if we even can build a rocket that big. But we're going to try, and we're going to go there. That one. Biden declares a climate emergency. So what? Narrative warfare. He's going to put that out there, and he's going to say, we're declaring a climate emergency. And, I could have written speech. A lot of people who, have their finger on the pulse of global heating could have written this. We owe it to future generations. This is an existential crisis. This is the greatest challenge to humanity since the Black Death. Okay. La. Okay. I'm not even saying it's the wrong thing to do. Go ahead and do it. Do it once a week. Do it every time you get in front of a microphone. Thank you all for having me. It's a beautiful parade. I really like your parade. And by the way, we have to deal with global heat. Okay, you could just say it every time you get in front of a microphone. It means nothing. And in the case of fighting global heating, it may run afoul of the laws of physics. So this is the dark side of narrative warfare. This is the kind of narrative warfare that is not supposed to rally people around a cause, to get them to think and to dream, to pull together and to believe that we can do this in order to happen. The narrative warfare that Joe Biden is engaged in is pandering, obfuscation, destruction. He's going to declare an emergency. All right, fine. Ever do anything else but that? No, he won't. Because anything he might do runs afoul of the laws of physics. The low-hanging fruit is recognizing there's a problem. The low-hanging fruit for the captain of the Titanic was just admitting that we hit an iceberg. That's the easy part. We just hit an iceberg and we're letting in water. The hard thing for that captain on that ship, the hard thing is what you're going to say next. How fast are we sinking? Do we have lifeboats? Where are they? Are there enough lifeboats? How do we get people on them? How are we going to launch? And in the case we don't have enough, who stays behind? These are all the hard questions. Those questions all resolve in the land of physics. They are not aspirational. They are not, let's all hold hands and sing Kuya. The low-hanging fruit for the captain of the is, wow, we just hit an iceberg. Ooh, that's the first key. Okay, that's the easy part. The easy part for Joe Biden is we have a climate emergency. That was easy. Yeah, I guess I'm done, right? The hard is everything that this implies. Everything so implied. And the problem with implications of we have a climate problem and we're going to fix this is that you run afoul of the law of physics. Now, 60 years ago, maybe even 30 years ago, you could have made that statement and it'd be conceivable. You could still outline a plan of action to avoid the worst of global heating. 6 years, probably, I would say certainly, 30 maybe. But as of about 10 or 20 years ago, that ship sailed. If I could dip into my analogy yet one more time, that ship has sailed. We have hit that iceberg. Anything we do now has to reflect reality, the laws of physics. Now, what do I mean? This topic is so hard. Because of the truth. And the truth is, whatever we have already done to the planet's dynamic systems, the combination of machines that run inside the cryosphere, the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, uh, these things cannot be undone. The melted permafrost cannot be unthawed. The dead forests cannot be undeaded. The sea levels we've had so far cannot be reduced. There's nowhere for the water to go. Now, there is no shortage of people who are willing to garner airtime. You see them in the news, you see them on the weather forecast, you see them on the YouTube channels. Well, if the problem is simply that the ice melting, we can solve that. We can solve that. How? Well, it's simple. We simply send huge cargo ships to nuclear-powered cargo ships to Arctic, and they suck up the seawater and they freeze it and they dump it in the water, and then you just keep doing that, and you just build the ice back up. That's nuts. That's insane. They're in warfare. That's what that is. That's no warfare. It's aspiration. You can say these things. I'm declaring a climate emergency. Oh, I'm going to refreeze the Arctic. You can say these things, and certain people will comfort from that, but it's not conceivable. I mean, it's conceivable. Okay. I mean, you can draw a picture of a cargo ship and a cartoon and then seawater going in here, and ice cubes jumping up out the back. I mean, you can draw it. You can even draw in the many nuclear reactors, and you can how many crew would have on the ship, and all their ranks and all the things they'd have to do, how big the ship would be, how deep and how long it would be up there, and you could cartoonishly put it together. But the thing you're actually going to do is not feasible. And then you say, well, all the forests are right. The habitable zone. These plants are moving. Plants can't move, and they can't reseed as fast as the habitat is shifting. So we're going to lose these plants. Some of them are gigantic forests full of, right? So, and then someone will pop up and say, well, we'll just plant a new forest. Just but just take seeds and plant them somewhere else. So that's just going to be. And so you're having that discussion over there. It's like, do you just signed up for? Well, you plant millions of acres of trees every year, and who's maintaining? Who's going to pay for this? Where's the water going to come from? And you're going to do all this without fossil fuels. Oh, by the way, that's what you're fighting, right? And government's going to sign on to do this for thousands of years, because that's how long this project is going to go on. At the same time, in that conversation over here, you've another argument going on over here, where we're saying we're losing arable land. The growth zone heading north. It's getting hot and dry. Places where we could grow types of crops can't grow them there anymore. The fruits and the seed cook on the plants. It's so hot, and it's just it's rain dependent, and they're not getting the rains, or they get this, and then the wind blows it down, or it gets so hot it all catches fire. And our crop areas where we can grow farmland is moving. We're going to have to move north. And they'll say, oh, that's fine, because we'll just cut all forests down north here, pull up all stumps. We'll just turn that into farmland, right? I mean, if the growth zone is moving north, we'll just move the farms north. And so you can see that, and you can just draw the picture on the map and have big arrows going here to here, and show the stick farmers going up to Canada, taking their stick tractors and stick cows and starting everything up there all over again. And that's war. That's narrative warfare. You're saying all these words, and people hear words, and they're like yeah, okay, I really, we could just move everything. Wow, that's great. Problem solved, I guess. Meanwhile, over here on this other side, those people were planning on replanting those forests that are disappearing, because their job is to keep the forests intact because that pulls CO2 out of the atmosphere, while the farmers are having to go north into the exact same habitat because we need food. Okay, and so if you just talk to this person about, well, we'll just reseed the forest first. If you talk to this person, well, we'll just move north, clear the forests, and you say, wow, these people are brilliant. They all got solutions to the problem. No, it's just narrative warfare. It's narrative warfare, yanking your chain. And they've convinced themselves, individual farmer convinced he's got the solution, and the arborist is she's got the solution, and Joe declares a climate emergency and gets together, shakes hands, and it'll be a bipartisan across the aisle cooperation, and we'll get Manchin to sign on because we're going to burn his clean to do all this. You know, it's just narrative warfare. It has no meaning. The words do not comport with the laws of physics. The words run afoul of reality. Simple as that. It's as simple. Right now, half the northern hemisphere, about half, is on fire, burning up. It's half on fire. I was listening to a meteorologist just a few days ago saying why that is. And it's actually something I've heard before, and I'm not a meteorologist. I don't follow all of these carefully. But she said it again. I thought, oh yeah, before. There is a, I shouldn't even repeat this because I don't really understand it. But right now in the northern hemisphere, we have 5 high pressure zones that are dominating weather in the northern hemisphere. And this apparently is rare. You might have 1 or 2, but we're now in 5. And given the size of these high pressure domes, they're big enough for like all of Europe, half North America, half of Russia. They're big. 5 of them. So it's like the arms of a starfish. The starfish is centered on the top of the planet, and these are going down, these high pressure areas. And they're kind of locked in place. They're moving slowly on the planet. But because there's 5 of them, about the time that one leaves our area, another one comes in from another direction. And they're just going around the planet like these 5 zones of pressure. And they're cooking the planet, seriously cooking the planet. It's not because... And the temperature rise due to this phenomenon is not 1 degree C over baseline, 1850. That's not what it is. It's 30 degrees C. It's hot. It's really hot. It's incredibly hot. It's murderous. It's just downright murderous. I was listening to a podcast just as I came in here. I'm not working in the heat, so I came in cool off. I listened to a podcast. This really nice guy, older guy. Probably my age. And he published his video 3 weeks ago. And in his video 3 weeks ago, he cited a clip from some UK, England meteorologist saying that the future for Great Britain is dire. 3 weeks ago, okay? The future for Great Britain is dire. At some point in the future, we could see days actually reach 40 degrees C or more, 45 degrees C. Okay, and this would be a disaster for Great Britain and the UK. All right, and 2 weeks later, it happened. Right now, they are just recovering from like 43 degrees. The country caught fire from the heat. No joke. They think that some of these fires were caused by old electrical wiring. England is an old country, right? Old electrical wiring, the insulation melted off the wire, and the wire sparking and creating fires in these homes. Another fire caused by someone's backyard compost heat, spontaneously busting in the heat. Here in America, we cause fires by doing gender reveal parties. Over there is spontaneous combustion. No joke. 3 ago, he mounted to the video with someone saying through even the further back that could get as bad as 4 degrees C here in the UK. 2 weeks later, boom, spontaneous combustion. What are they going to say? What do you say to that? It's supposed to happen in 2050. It happened 2022. Now, okay, in 2050, it'll happen 6 times a year. This year is over. It could happen again. There are 5 pressure zones bringing heat round and around in the upper half of the planet, the northern hemisphere. 5 of them. As soon as one leaves, another comes in behind it. This could happen every 2 weeks. We were in a situation here in the United States over the past 6 months where torrential rains were coming to the southeast, our southeast, so Florida, Mississippi, Arkansas, Georgia, every 2 weeks, or even once a week. It was like a carousel, like a carousel. It just went around and around and around. And the heat would go up into these parts of the country, and then it'd be replaced by a cold wave coming down. Rain like you can't believe, and that would pass through, and then another heat wave would come up from the Gulf Coast, and then another cold front would come down, rain like you can't believe. Oh, and then another heat wave would come up the Gulf of Mexico, and right behind that, what's going to happen this time? Oh, I know. Yes, of course. The cold wave would come down with this, and when the heat came up, it would break records for heat, and when the cold come down, it would break records for cold, and they just kept colliding with each other, just like this. Just like I beat you with the right side, beat you with the left. You just get hit here, and you get here, and you get hit there. It just comes like this, and you where to look up. Just stop beating me. No, I'm beating this. This is fun. Okay, that's what was happening in the U.S. Right now, of course, we're under 2 of these heat domes. 2 of the 5 or 6 or how many it is right now. Record heat. I'm trying to work outside, and it's really hot. In fact, I kind of got sick for a little while from the heat. I had to take a break, and you got to be careful with that. I can catch up with you. So, Joe Biden declares a climate emergency. Now he kind of has to do that. He kind of has to do that. He's worried about his posterity, not his posture. Okay, although he may be worried about that too. He's worried his posterity that with the entire northern hemisphere on fire, with his own country losing billions of dollars a week in productivity due to weather-related losses, that he didn't declare a climate emergency. So declare a climate emergency. Now, in 2022, there will be elections, and the Republicans will win the House and keep the Senate, and they'll declare there cannot be a climate emergency. They'll pass legislation that makes it illegal to declare a climate emergency. And they'll pander to their corporate own. They'll pander to the fossil fuel industries. Yes. Okay, that's fine. Because they have to do that. And somewhere out there's an executive at ExxonMobil. Listen, Joe, I know we had this conversation, and we're going to try and minimize the unjustified fear of global heating and global climate change, and try to calm people and not frighten the children. And we're going to do all things. And however, probably it's a good time to say something, because we don't want people to lose their nerve. And we've already had one group of people storm Capitol over some perceived thing they didn't like. Be having them storming the Capitol over physics. Kids can do anything about that. So I want to go ahead. I think it's now to declare a climate emergency, and it's not actionable anyway. And it'll maybe some people will feel like government is engaged in the problem, and we're going to look at it, and want to take it seriously, and some bullet points. We'll give a list if you feel like you need talking points. We'll list, Joe, and you declare your climate emergency, and then you can go down the list of the things that are important: saving the children, looking out for economic justice, and underserved populations, and poor people, some other things that good. Okay, But don't stray from the bullet points. That should be fine. Just say the thing they give you to say should be good. And right now, we're just going to do some narrative warfare for a while. We're going to frame this as important, not really important enough to disrupt any of these quality of life, which means quarterly profits, really. So, do you think you can handle that, Joe? So he was ready to do that. He didn't, because he came down positive. All right, fine. Maybe survive it to come around and do it anyway. But just by saying he was going to do this, I'm going to do this. Okay. In some ways, that's already winning the narrative here. At least the one of the skirmishes. The early battles in the war against global heating, in the narrative warfare about global heating, he's already 1 point. So, okay, declaring a climate emergency. Now, what got me angry and depressed when the war started in Ukraine is how quickly Germany rolled over to buying the natural gas from Russia, reaching their coal-fired power plant, going back to clear, and just not grab bull by the horns and saying, well, okay, so they're going to cut off our natural gas. They're just a bunch of rat bastards anyway. What are we buying natural gas from these people? And we did sign the climate accords. We're supposed to be drawing down our consumption of fossils anyway. So now's the time. Now's the time to do that. Let's all just recognize that if global heating and destruction of the planet for human purposes wasn't enough of a reason to cut our fossil fuel consumption, well then, war with the Russian mafia. Okay, that is another reason. How many reasons do you need? Surely two is enough. Rather than taking that approach, of course, they just threw the Paris Climate Accords on us, the Ukrainians on us essentially, and started doubling down on fossil fuels. That's just a signal. It's a signal to me that none of this is taken seriously. They had to choose between tackling a hard problem that really is a long-term existential crisis versus next quarter's profit statements. They went with the quarterly profit statements. Simple. So no one takes it seriously. They're not taking it seriously, and they're not going to. Will do though is they will engage in narrative warfare. Another example of narrative warfare, and a sign we are losing big time. Okay. Somebody who was pretty high mucky muck in the I can't remember who it was, but it was on a German media broadcast. It was brought up as an important person. I think actually her credentials were that she worked with the ICC and was one of the authors on one of the 6 summaries. She was trotted out, and there had waves in Europe and fires in the UK, fires in the south of France. It seems like all of Spain and Portugal are on fire. And so she was trotted out to the news, and they interviewed her, and what can we do? How serious is this? And of course, the question came up. So, what difference does it make if the global temperature goes up by 1 degree? Come on, girl. It's only 1 degree. 1.5? Are you kidding me? And they say 2 degrees is the end of the world. What is this about? And she, what she was, and I don't know why, except that it's just a quick answer to get off the news. I don't want to be on this camera. I'm going to say something stupid, because that's what it was. It was stupid. I'm going to say something simple and stupid. even the troglodytes on Fox News will hear it, and they won't argue with it, deny the whole thing. Climate change is a hoax, and the Chinese and the Indians, all this. They'll do all that, but they won't say that I'm deliberately complicating things. What she said, 1 degree C is a big deal, because that means that when your heat waves come, when your summer does come, it's 1 degree warmer than it would have been originally. You know, that's the jump off point for the rest of the year. Everything's going to be warmer, 1 degree, you know, and it adds up. And so it's 2 degrees, and it's 3 degrees, and a degree here, and a degree there. Pretty soon you got a real heat wave, right? She said all that. And thank you very much. That was very informative. You're a scientist, pat her on the head, good scientist. You know, thank you for your expert education. Stupidest thing I've ever heard. Absolutely, hands down, stupidest comment I've ever heard from TV broadcast about this topic. 1 degree C, global increase in global average temperature, does mean your summer is going to be 1 degree C warmer. That is not what that means. In fact, that's the last means. That doesn't apply to anybody's summer temperatures or winter temperatures anywhere on the globe. 1 degree C rise in global average temperature does not mean your day is going to be 1 degree C warmer. What it means is your aerodynamic system is fucked. Everything you thought you knew about weather patterns, rainfall patterns, rainfall totals, rain days, temperature days, garden growth, forest behavior, migratory patterns of the animal migrate, the beginning of the growing season, the ending of the growing season, the beginning of the fire season, the ending of the fire season. Everything you thought you knew about anything that pertains to you, where you are ever, anytime, done. All of it. Completely disrupted. Disrupted a little bit, disrupted a lot, disrupted. That's what 1 degree C increase in global temperatures means. That's what it means. It doesn't mean your summer is going to be 1 degree warmer. Nobody's summer is going to be 1 degree warmer. No one is going to go to their thermometer with their calendar and, well, let's see, on this day, last year it was this temperature. Today it should be 1 degree more the same day. Look at that. It is. No one's going to have that conversation with their thermometer. Nobody. That is not what it means. And to say that's what it means is the stupidest fucking thing I've heard. That is not what it means. What that is narrative warfare. It doesn't mean that. The truth of what it does mean is complicated. Sorry, it's physics. It's dynamics. It's the hydrosphere. What do you know about the hydrosphere? The atmosphere. You know anything about the atmosphere? The layers, the cities, the patterns, anything at all? Nothing. It's about the biosphere, the most complicated thing on this planet. All the life, all the zones, and all the elevations, anything that ever happened. You know anything about that? No, you don't. Most people who study the biosphere don't know anything about the biosphere. Being what? Orange. Part of the biosphere. People who are in cryosphere, which I'll just tell you, is this portion of the planet. People that are studying the cryosphere here are studying a system that's disappearing. They know that. I'll tell you that. If you talk to a cryospherologist, a glaciologist, by another, if you talk to a glaciologist, they'll tell you horror stories. They'll tell you horror stories. And if you ask to take them to a bar and pint, and you're sitting around talking, and everybody's loosened up. There are no microphones, there's no cameraman, and there's no Fox News, and you're able to speak freely because the conversation isn't going to endanger their funding. They'll tell you, yeah, I don't know where this is headed. Well, I do know where it's headed. I don't know where it's taking. Well, I kind of do know where it's taking us. It's all bad. There's no way out. There's just no way. They'll tell you that. I know that because occasionally they will come clean. Now, they don't come clean on Fox News. They don't come clean on PBS NewsHour, and they don't come clean on Democracy Now, because these are high-profile venues. But if you can get them on some back office YouTube podcast, come clean, and they'll say, "I'm afraid." The data I see all the time, it's fearful, right? It's frightening. We are losing areas of forest that will never return. We are losing ice sheets that will never return on this planet. Just possible in the entire history, a remainder of the history of this Earth, until 5 billion years from now, when the sun becomes destabilized and grows to a red giant and consumes the planet Mercury and the planet and comes within a lash of consuming things. Until that day happens, there may not be forests and ice returning on this planet. We just don't know. This planet could become ice-free for all time. Ice for all time. Until the end of the Earth. In a fiery cataclysm. We are changing things that in all probability will never change back. Now, that may not be a problem. People are pointing out that, okay, you can't destroy the Earth. We talk about destroying the Earth, and we're destroying the Earth, and pollution is destroying the Earth, and humans are destroying the Earth, and it's the only we have. We're destroying our home. Okay, no, we're not the Earth. On one hand, and that's all narrative work. On the one hand, is a rock. Okay, we're not destroying the rock. Second, life of this planet is tenacious. We've had planet-killing events 5 times on the planet. 5 mass extinctions. This planet was one completely encased in ice a long time, 2 billion years ago. But life had started. There was life on this planet, and this planet became completely encased in ice. Fittingly, it was life of this planet that is thought to have changed the Earth's system so much at that early date that it drew down the greenhouse gas that were keeping the planet warm. And when the gases were drawn down by the life of the planet, the gases were reduced, the planet froze solid. I think that's the first mass extinction. I mean, that we can find in the geologic record. There may have others, right? But that's kind of the first. We had 4 since, and we're in the 6th one now. 5. 6th one now. So 5 times. 4 now. The life of this planet was heavily reduced. Not only in terms of the numbers of living things, also the diversity of living things, the number of species and families of species were impacted. The last one, the 5th, is the most famous. It's the the KT extinction, the Chicxulub meteorite that landed in what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. Chicxulub meteorite, huge, 2 kilometers across or something like that. White dinosaurs, right? It may have taken a couple of years to actually kill off, but what it did was it encased the Earth in a cloud, steam, and ash, and sulfuric acid that caused primary productive plant growth to decrease or halt, and the large animals that need a lot of food and warmth couldn't get their resources they need, and they died of starvation and various opportunistic illnesses. They got weakened, and only the little small animals, like small mammal, survived, being able to just eat whatever's left, and the Earth reset. It was a big reset and started over. Of course, we now know that those little mammals became big mammals, and those gave rise to all the diversity in the mammalian branch of the tree of life, and eventually, of course, the mammals gave rise to the primates, and the primates gave rise to us, and we did everything we did, and then we started the sixth mass. Yay, us! We're not killing the Earth. We're not killing the Earth. That's a silly thing to say. Really, it's not very productive to even say that. We're killing the Earth, my Mother Earth. We're killing my Mother Earth. No, we're not rock. We're not killing the life. I mean, we may reduce life to a sliver of what it was, but that's done before, so I can imagine that's going to be a problem. What we're killing is ourselves. We're killing ourselves. And I like to say when I'm talking to my wife, it couldn't happen to a more deserving bunch, right? I mean, that approach. Who was it? It was Umar Haik. I think that's how you pronounce that last name. Umar Haik. I like his stuff. He's poetic when he writes. He's very moving. He's definitely a humanist. He loves people. Great. That's good. And he writes very flowery prose about how destroying our Earth. And he, I think he quoted, who was he quoted? Secretary General, maybe, that what we're doing is we're not destroying the Earth. We're committing suicide by climate change. Suicide, committing suicide. And that's not true. We're not committing suicide. That's a kind of narrative warfare. I don't approve. I don't know why. It's wrong to say that we're committing suicide. Joe Biden could come out and say that. I'm declaring a climate emergency because you know what we're doing, folks? We're committing suicide, and we're using climate change as like the gun. We're holding it to our own head, and we're going to commit suicide by climate change. That is not what we are doing. It is very important that you understand we are not committing suicide. No, I don't feel about suicide. Probably depends on your religion, or if you know someone who committed suicide, or you've thought about committing suicide, or you think that suicide is unnecessary. People just need counseling. They need a friend. Whatever. How you feel about suicide, I don't know. But there is a certain unavoidable reality that if you commit suicide, that's your choice. There are lots of countries that have or are considering or have considered laws that allow for doctor-assisted suicide. That's your choice. Now, in case it's about you have a medical extremity, you're not going to survive. Your quality of life is degraded seriously. You're waiting to die, so to speak, and you just want it over with for your sake, the sake of family. Moving on. Okay, so physician-assisted suicide is a right in some place. Okay, what we are doing through the agency of global heat, climate change, is not committing suicide. That is incorrect. That is a narrative. That is a lie that people are telling each other and telling you, and they want me to believe, but that's not going to that we're committing suicide. We are not committing suicide. You can't look at the mass extinction and say, yes, that's suicide. We're going to die once we kill all those animals and plants. We're going to die. We're committing suicide. It is not suicide. That's narrative. That's narrative framing about what we're doing and trying to appeal to people. Oh, you wouldn't suicide, would you? Okay. Suicide is approved in many cases. Suicide makes sense. Person had a terminal illness jumped off a bridge. Person had a broken heart, couldn't face their life themselves. Okay. That's their choice. What we are doing is not that. What we're doing is what's called a murder suicide. A murder suicide. And I tried to explain to my wife the other day, and she didn't buy it. I'm going to try again. What we're doing is a murder suicide. Now, you can a person wants to commit suicide. That's choice. That's fine. Right? There are other ways. It's not the only way to handle your problem. But in the end, maybe that's your privilege. Okay. No one believes murder is your privilege. And before we die of global heating and climate change, we are going to kill everybody else. Before we fire the gun on our own self, we're going to kill everyone in the room. Before we jump off the bridge, we're going to throw everybody else off the bridge. How are we doing that? There are lots of people in this world that have never consumed fossil fuel, or just any tiny amount. Subsistence farmers, yak herders, people living in Iceland, the what are they called? The Inuits, whatever. Very tiny fossil fuel footprints. Live off the land, subsistence farming, fish from the canoes. Okay. Those people are going to die. They're going to die, and they're not going to know why. They're going to be really confused. They were doing really well. They've done really well for 5,000 years, and they're going to die. We are going to kill them. We're not killing Mother Earth. We're not killing the cryosphere. We're killing those people. There are lots of plants and animals that are going to vanish from the surface of Earth because of us. We are going to. We are going to murder them. They had nothing to do with any of this. They're standing on the street corner, minding their own business, growing on the island, growing on this cliff face in Hawaii, digging around dirt, eating grubs. They were just minding their own business, didn't know what was going on. We're going to murder them. We're going to murder them. No, they don't count. They're just shrew. They're just wildebeest. They're just elephants. They're just giraffes. Who cares? No one cares. We got to of these things. Nevertheless, we are going to murder them. We are going to murder people. They are going to find that their life that has worked for them for 5,000 years becoming more and more difficult, and they're not going to know why. They're going to pray to their God, they're going to pray to their deity, and they're going to burn the incense, and they're going to whatever they have to do. None of it work, and then they die. And we're going to kill all these people, all these plants, all these animals, destroy all this habitat, melt all this ice, flood all these coastal communities. We're going to fight wars in Ukraine, and wars in Pakistan, and wars in India, and wars all over China, and wars all through Africa, and wars in Malaysia, and wars in South America, and wars in the good old United States of America. And people won't even know why they're having to do this. All they know is something happened to the food supply. Something happened to the water. The upstream neighbor must have taken our water. Who are these hateful people? Why are they to get us? Why are they doing this to us? And we're going to go fight those people. And they're going to be mad because something bad happened to them. They're going to come and they're going to fight us. And I'm fighting you because of your politics. Fighting you because you're in it. And I'm fighting because you voted this way. And I'm fighting you because you supported that candidate. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. What they're really fighting is that they're just a bunch of angry animals trapped in a cage as the resources run out, and they're going to go at each other, hammer and tongs. murder. It's murder. It's not suicide. It's murder. And we've done enough murdering that the biosphere breaks down and the cryosphere goes away. And atmosphere isn't even breathable anymore, and the habitable zones are no longer habitable. The arable land is no longer growable, and the crops are abandoned in the fields, and there are no supply chains, and there hasn't been a ship to come into our food for 5 years, and people are starved. They're resorting to cannibal, and all of this gone down. And we're murdered everything we can murder. We blamed them. We blamed that. We've eaten this part. We cut all those down. We did all this stuff. Still was enough. Then we finally died. And yes, in the end, it's a suicide. You destroyed everything that was supposed to keep you alive. And it is the equivalent in the end of a bullet in your head. Functionally, you kind of did that. There may not have been a bullet involved, or maybe in a lot of cases, a bullet involved. But why do you end up committing suicide in the end? Because you've lost all hope, right? You've killed for all food, but the food is gone. You killed for the water, now the water's gone. You killed for arable land, and now it can't grow anything anymore. You don't even have seeds. You don't have water. You don't have fertilizer. Nothing. Okay? Your tractor is sitting in there and rusted. You haven't been able to run it for 3 years. No fuel. And now your children are starving, your wife is starving, everything's going down. And finally, after you've just destroyed everything else, finally you get down to putting that bullet in your head. It's a murder-suicide. It is a murder-suicide. In the end, when your life is not livable, you can commit suicide. I may want to talk first and try and talk you out of it, but in the end, that's your choice. The murder is not your choice, but that is what we're doing. And when when the Secretary General of the UN says, "Oh well, we're going to not address climate change. We're committing suicide." No, Antonio Guterres, that is not what we are doing. We wanted to commit suicide. That would almost be well, that's you. You do you. Okay, that's not what we're doing. It is a murder suicide. And to claim anything else constitutes a form of narrative warfare. So why doesn't he say the advanced nations of the world are committing murder? Why does that? Because narrative that the advanced nations of the world are committing suicide is a very different narrative tool. Has very different consequences for the intended audience. Because you can tell someone, you can tell your best friend, your lifestyle, the drinking and the carousing and the fighting and the bars and carrying a gun in your car, you're just committing suicide. I mean, I love you, man, like my brother, but to tell you, out of love, I'm telling you, pick this up, you're suicide. Your friend will say, I know you love me. I don't believe that. I just don't believe I am. But if you turn around and you tell your friend, the way you drink and the way you drive, you're just murder waiting to happen. You're just going to blind drunk drive a crosswalk full of orphans going to the nunnery. Okay, you're just going to kill people with your car the way you drive drunk. You're just a murderer. You're a murderer. If you tell your friend that, they're going to drive drunk into a pole getting suicide. But they're going to drunk into a crowd of children like a murderer. They're going to get angry. Because it's different when you tell somebody what you're doing in murder versus what you're doing suicide. They're not the same. So when the Secretary General had a chance to the nations of the world and accuse them of a crime, he accused them of the least important thing you can commit to suicide, the least consequential, the least morally fraught. Suicide. And when Joe Biden to come along and say something, he says, we're going to declare a climate emergency because it imposes the least restrictions or requirements or responsibilities on any. It is completely meaningless. It's narrative warfare. I'm going to frame it this way so that I don't get any pushback. I'm going to talk about the 1 degree of climate rise as it's just going to make every 1 degree warmer. I'll just frame it that way, and then can either see that as a problem. Maybe they won't. But I have a story. This will be my story. Oh yeah, every day it'll be 1 degree warmer. No, that's not what it means. That's stupid. That is irresponsible. That is just stupid. How can I just say such a stupid, retarded, ignorant thing? Well, they're engaging in narrative warfare. This is why I talk on this topic. It's gotten to where I'll sit down and we'll be watching some podcast on climate change, on the fires in Europe, the fires in Spain, or whatever, the heat in the UK, and the runways melting. You know, and then they'll get somebody on, and the person say, "Well, yes, of course, 1 BC. I mean, that just means it's 1 degree hotter." Meanwhile, the UK just hit their nightmare temperature scenario at 28 years ahead of schedule. I can't face it. I just get to where I can't, because I see it for what it is. It's pandering. It's like talking to children about Santa Claus. And if it was as harmless as Santa Claus, I still might not approve. I might say, look, you're setting a precedent here. One of these days, that kid is going to thought that Santa Claus is just a myth and that you lied to them, and then they're going to say, well, I guess is okay. I could make that case. The case is harmless enough. Yeah, and then we get people like Donald Trump. What did they lie to him about to make it okay? To have your own alternate facts. When did that start? Well, it may have started with Santa. Okay, so there are implications, things we do. You got to be careful what you say to people. You set up long expectations. We have to use our words carefully. Being a scientist, I believe words have meaning. Words have meaning. And we shouldn't say anything that doesn't have meaning. And engaging in narrative warfare at best is void of meaning. These words, these conversations, these soothing intonations are meaningless. And if our dilemma was simply a crisis of the spirit or the soul, then I guess poetry would be fine. Wordsmithing. Let's let an orator up here grab somebody and bring them in, know how to talk. A great voice, love listening to their voice. How to read some poetry. Well, lift everyone's spirits. It's just narrative. It doesn't matter. They're just sad. Make them happy. Well, if it was just a crisis of the spirit, I'd say fine. Hold hands, sing together, whatever. Therapy is cheap. Well, that's not our situation. We are not having a crisis spirit. Unless you want to frame it that way, you could say, well, we're having a crisis of physics. The Earth system is moving out from under us. It's about to destroy us, or our civilizations at least. And we are in this mass extinction, also physics. And wow, physics, that sucks because there's nothing you can do about physics, right? Earth dynamic system is a big machine, and wow, that machine moving. Ooh, where's it go? I don't know. It doesn't look good. Well, it's physics for you. Boy, I wish I'd learned more about physics when I was in school. But let's not talk about physics because that's sad. Instead, let's have something uplifting. Okay, you can take that approach. Let's do something uplifting. Now, that would be fine. Defining it as a crisis of the spirit. Okay, I don't swing away, but but somebody might. So let's redefine it as a crisis of the spirit, and let's work on spiritual growth and holding hands and singing in tune. And okay, that you could do that. You could do that. And I guess I would allow for that if behind the scenes, over here somewhere else, in scientist land, you had the best and the brightest, and you had a different conversation with those people. But the best and the brightest are talking turkey, talking truth about what we really face. Can we fix? Okay, we can't fix it. All right, fine. I get that part. Can we adapt to it? Can we manage ourselves through this? Maybe. So that conversation over here, and then over here, the children are, meaning the U.S. Midwest and the Southeast, East, rural America, most of India, whatever, communist, who want to hear a narrative, another story for them. You could even tell them it's a hoax. I'd be okay with that. You could tell them it's a hoax. Joe Biden could come out and say to one group of people on CNN, we're going to declare a climate emergency. Then he could go on Fox News and say climate change is I don't know why he would do that. I would call him that, but I would understand the logic of it. But I would understand the logic thinking behind it. I wouldn't agree, but I wouldn't be able to argue against it. Not really. Tell one audience what they want to hear, tell the other audience what they want to hear, and then behind the scenes with the people who can really make a difference, policy. Okay? That might be a strategy. And that would mean that you're engaging in narrative warfare to placate the masses, pat them on the head, good children, Santa Claus for you, Easter Bunny for this other bunch, Tooth Fairy over here, and everyone's happy. You've got your shinies. Okay, run along the play. Okay, get the scientist in here, bitches. Sit down. I've got time for this. What are we gonna? I can really see that. We call that a Manhattan Project style approach, where the people who built the first atomic bomb did behind the scenes, while the president and the generals were telling the American public, we are going to win in the field of operations. We have the military, we have the technology, we have the best soldiers, our morale is high, our citizenry are behind us. Meanwhile, behind the scenes over here, they're talking to a scientist, and they're saying, what about this bomb you're just about? Oh, yeah, let's have a big project. Let's call it the Manhattan Project. And we'll give you what you need, and we'll listen to you, let you do whatever you want to do, and just you do, okay? And that's what they did. So we could do a Manhattan Project. We could do a Manhattan Project style project. We could do that. Maybe they're doing that. I don't think they're doing that. I think they do. I think that we can't do that anymore. Corporations won't allow it. The military won't allow it. Congress would have to approve it. They want it. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this to end. The Titanic is at the iceberg. So what? Maybe it'll sink in, but it's not sinking right now. So bring out the dessert part and get that or playing, and let's play some cards. Okay, party on. And when the starts to tilt, then it's going down, and then okay, when it's obvious, well, then I'll just get on my private lifeboat, sail out into the North Lake, continue my card game. I guess I don't know what they're thinking about. They're going, but that seems to be the direction things are headed. And for that to work for them, they need a different narrative. They need to convince people who need to be convinced that something is happening. They need to keep people who are clueless, right? And that's all of warfare. I hear it all the time. I see it on the YouTube channels. I see it, in the radio broadcasts. And Secretary General's doing it. Joe Biden is doing it. It's all narrative warfare. And I don't expect anybody who's watching this video to understand how to fight narrative warfare. I just don't expect it. It's not in our DNA. It really isn't. What is it? Is it we too trusting? Are we too naive? Maybe that this problem is too complicated. When Joe Biden, I'd like to think that when Joe Biden says he's going to declare an emergency, that he knows what that means. Well, nothing, I'll tell you right now. In the face of the laws of physics, and exactly squat. But he, as a politician, might think that means something. Okay, fine, but it does. A lot of the narrative warfare is intended to work within the processes in which it is invoked. The political process, economic process, and governance, local, state, and federal level, and all these so-called realities that are just abstractions. They're not real. And so you engage in narrative warfare for these abstractions, and you think you know what you're doing, and you've been a political climber because you've been successful at engaging in narrative within these abstract classes of being, and it worked to get you to go to governor and then president and then whatever, and it worked all that, so it's going down. Well, that's not what we need. We don't need anyone to declare a climate emergency. Maybe 60 years ago, that would have been kind of useful. Climate emergency. Amend the Constitution to declare a climate emergency. I don't know. Something is going to survive from an administration to the next. Maybe that would help. Maybe I don't know. Maybe if it triggers certain legislation, things happen differently. Then I guess it's. But right now it doesn't do that, and it won't. It won't do that either. Joe Biden has a climate emergency on this date, and then on this date, something. That is not it. That is not how it's going to work. Joe Biden will declare a climate emergency, and then somewhere in 2022 or 2023, Congress will come along under Republicans and declare there is no climate emergency. Oh, and by the way, that's legislation that makes it illegal to declare a climate emergency. So, why bother? It's meaningless. It's narrative. It's narrow affair. Using words to fight a battle. The real battle is what the laws of, and I say the laws of physics because I want to position the battle. I want the opponent to be known. The opponent in this battle, the enemy in this battle is the law of physics. The reason that the laws of physics are out to kill us in a murder-suicide pact is because of what we have done. So ultimately, when you fight this battle by declaring climate emergency and then going on to declare our commitment to the Paris Climate Accord, and we are going to cut emissions, whatever that even means. Emissions of what? How do you do that? The enemy is us. What was it in the Pogo cartoon? Famously, the character says, "We hit the enemy, and he is us." Okay, that's your battle. And that's why the political class will never do this, because to act a climate emergency means acting against the interests of the children, and I call them children because they're spoiled. We've grown accustomed to what we do, our daily ritual. Getting in our V8 SUV and going to 3 blocks, our latte at the Starbucks drive-thru, and then being on the road 45 minutes, our job, the air-conditioned building, and making our air-conditioned bullshit job, and then getting in our SUV and going 20 miles over here to groceries from the air-conditioned shopping center and all the beautiful fruits and vegetables, half of which are wasted by the end of the day, and going in the store, and then go to home in our air-conditioned house and watch TV, Simpsons, and whatever else, the Kardashians, and that's what we're into. And there's no way Joe Biden is going to say, "I'm declaring a climate emergency." That whole Simpsons Kardashian thing, that's out the window. And that Starbucks drive-in, you got to close drive-in. That is bullshit. You don't even need that tape. What are you doing, you fool? What is your problem? No, he's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. And so we're down this path to destroying the cryosphere, biosphere, the hydrosphere, the atmosphere. We're just going to do it. And the last time I was on here, Russia invaded Ukraine. Germany was worried their gas supply, so they started reinstituting their coal-fired power plants. And it's all about gas, and it's all about who's controlling the future. And then Russia is worried that we're letting off of fossils, and they're not going to be able to make money. And so let's start a war to keep buying fossil fuel from them, and then they would sell fossil fuels oil directly to Europe. So they sold it to Saudi Arabia, and they will sell it to Europe. And it's just, why would I have any hope? I don't. I can't. Just can't. I just can't believe it. I can't believe there's any way out of this. I know the way out. I do. Yeah, I know the way out. He says with confidence. Oh yeah. Maybe someday. Maybe I'll have a video about the way out. Oh God, it's ugly. Maybe someday, when I'm in a mood, I can face it. Not today.